Howard Chiat and I just have a few things we would like to mention to you. Howard?
Good evening. Thank you for coming out and meeting the stone. I'd like to explain two things to you. The first one is why we have to have a ballot. Our concern was we did not want to spend your money unnecessarily. Our documents do not preclude a write-in candidate. Matter of fact, you can submit your name at the annual meeting to run for the board. Although it's unlikely, it is possible that a write-in candidate could receive more votes than one of the 5 individuals who have submitted their intent to run forms. So the ballots have to be counted, and that's the reason for it. The other point that I would like to make to you is you should vote. You vote any way you like. You can vote for one of the candidates, 5 of the candidates, or none of the candidates. What is most important is that and Kathy Jean will explain it to you, you're going to have to sign a proxy. The proxy is very important because we must have a quorum, which is 1/3 of the 1,143 residents. If we do not have a quorum present in person or by the submission of the proxies, there's no annual meeting and there's no vote. So please read the instructions, submit your ballots, and sign the proxy. Kathy G will go further now.
Okay, we're going to have this posted in the lobby tomorrow, but the mailing went out on Friday and there was a holiday on Monday, yesterday. So some of you may just be getting it in the mail now. But your ballot will come to you as an absentee ballot, okay? And your absentee ballot will have the 5 names on it, and then down at the bottom, of course, there will be spaces. That will be for write-in candidates for the night of the election. And then there's going to be a blank envelope marked ballot, okay? You have to check off 5 candidates, up to 5 candidates. You don't have to check 5, you can check 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. There's no more than 5 to check. You have to fold your envelope and put it inside this envelope marked ballot. Then you have to take the envelope marked ballot and put this inside the envelope with the proxy on it. Then you have to fill out the front of the envelope with the proxy information. If you don't fill out the envelope with the proxy information, we don't know who it's from. If we don't know who it's from, your ballot does not count. We do not open your envelope. It will be open the night of the election. We just found out today that the mailing house did not send out envelopes return addressed to Valencia Shores. That means that people who want to mail it to us will have to address an envelope and send it to the association, or you can just drop off the proxy envelope like this to the office, and that's perfectly fine. Okay? Any questions? All right. Okay, great, thanks. Every year we get proxy envelopes in and we don't know who they belong to, and we try to, through process of elimination, to figure that out. Okay, tonight is going to be a night of randomness. There's my random box. Okay, good evening. I welcome you this Tuesday evening to meet the candidates. I am Kathy Jean Pinchuk, the Valencia Shores General Manager, and it's my pleasure to host this Meet the Candidates event for the Valencia Shores community. Please silence your cell phones and let's begin. Valencia Shores currently has a board of 9 members with elections each year, rotating between 5 and 4 members, elected every other year. This year there are 5 vacancies created by Howard Chiat, Harvey Hoffman, Herb Dembski, David Baserman and Stuart Vogel's terms coming to a close on February 11th. This evening, we will introduce you to the 5 new candidates who are running for the 5 open positions available. We're going to allow the candidates to announce their names to you, and each candidate will have 1 minute to basically state their names and indicate what they've done in Valencia Shores, what communities they've served on, what positions they've held. Elena Squishar down in the front is our timer, and she will give you notice of 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and then time notices. All right? So, we're going to be random tonight, so I'm going to pick all your names for randomness out of this lovely green box. So we will start tonight with Eli Ryder.
My name is Eli Ryder. I've served on 3 committees, the ARC, and I'm the recording secretary there. I served on the Safety and Security Committee, recording secretary there, and the Audio-Visual Committee in general. I've been trained to do most everything. I still haven't done any movies yet, but I hope to do that soon. As far as my activities on these committees, in the Safety and Security, I was concerned with the lighting around the community. Valencia Shores Drive. Lights have been out over the last 2 months. Florida Power and Light came in, replaced a few of them, not all of them, and we still have 6 lights that are out. So it's the 2nd month, and hopefully we'll get better response by continuing to screen it. As far as the ARC, we have a group of fellows there. We go out about every 2 weeks. We get our assignments the week the meetings are called, and we all discuss things before it's approved. Steve Kraniak is the chairman there, and the meetings are very peaceful, I'll put it that way. Okay. My time is out, so thank you very much for listening.
Next is Ray Lichtenstein.
Good evening, everyone. Is this on? Yeah. For those who may not know, I was on a board here for 4 years between 2006 and 2011. I was a liaison to several committees. I'm not going to mention all of them, but entertainment, fitness, and I was liaison to the Screen Committee, which you have here in the social hall. I'm very proud of the work that that committee did and what we have here. Now I'm on the Rules and Documents Committee, Fitness Committee, and the Cafe Committee, and I hope to continue to serve you well. Thank you.
Next will be Robert Feinberg.
Good evening. My name is Bob Feinberg, and although I have not sat on any committees here at Valencia Shores, I have sat on a number of temple boards, business boards, things from little leagues to multi-million-dollar corporations. I've decided to come and run for the board, having come to a number of board meetings, and my approach to our community is that it needs to be our community. I feel very strongly that we need to have greater input from people like yourselves so that we can better serve what you want our community to look like. Thank you.
Next will be Gail Silverman.
I'm Gail Silverman. I have served on the Fitness Committee in the past, and I'm currently on the Operations Committee. Is this echoing? I'm not a stranger to committees in my former life. I was on many, many committees. I feel strongly that we need a board that can work together cooperatively and keep the community involved and keep the community's interests at heart. That's it.
Last but not least, Mark Greenberg.
Last but not least, can you hear me in the back? No? Yes. My name is Mark Greenberg. Since my wife and I moved here in 2013, I served on the Finance Committee ever since I've been here, and I've also been part of the Budget Subcommittee for the last 2 years. In addition to that, I'm chairman of the Current Events Club. That's my participation in Valencia Shores.
Thank you, candidates. As in the past, homeowners have been requested to submit questions to the candidates on the Question for Candidates form. This year, we received a small response from the community, and the Election Subcommittee would like to thank those of you who participated in the election process. The task force has taken these questions without targeting any specific candidates. This year, we will be asking one general question to each of the candidates who have elected to run for the board. The candidates may stand at the podium if they would like to answer this question. Again, candidates' names will be drawn out of a basket randomly as to order of speaking, and each candidate has 2 minutes to respond to the question. And Elena will give you, again, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and time notices. And it's again up to you if you want to come up to the podium to respond or not. So I will read first I'll pull the name up, and then I will read you the question. And I'll let you decide if you want to come up to the podium or stay where you are. First will be Robert Feinberg. What skill sets will you bring to the board that will make you a productive and successful director, and how will you employ them? And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My skill set is varied. I've owned my own insurance agency for the last 35 years. If anybody knows anything about insurance agencies and insurance companies, it's all about negotiation and getting people to work together to meet financial goals, personal goals, and corporate goals. My skill set extends out, as I indicated before, to the various organizations, including temples, Little League, and other businesses that I've sat on boards and directed. My goal is very simple. I think it's important to be available to our community, be it through email, be it through telephone call, be it through small meeting, so that I have an understanding of what it is you want to have accomplished at the board. The board acts in the behest of the constituents. It acts in the behest of you. The few board meetings I have attended, the impression I get is that there is some sort of divisiveness, there is some sort of division of he who holds the power, he who holds the keys. I think it's sort of backwards. I think the people who live here hold the keys, and we should implement the things that you want to have done. I think it's my job as a board member to implement those things. I spent half an hour to an hour today reading our Facebook page about the traffic and the safety. I think there's a tremendous amount of misinformation. I think that contributes to animosity. I think there needs to be a better forum to get out the correct information, and it would be my goal to act to get that information out to you, importantly, on a timely basis. Thank you.
Next will be Mark Greenberg. And again, the question is, what skill sets will you bring to the board that will make you a productive and successful director, and how will you employ them?
My basic original skill set is that of finance. My bachelor's degree is in accounting. My master's is in business administration. I worked for 37 years in healthcare organizations, every one which had a board. I had to answer the board, I had to chair the board, I had to be on the board. So I'm used to dealing with boards and the constituencies. With respect to finance, as I said earlier, I've been on the budget subcommittee for the last 2 years, and if anyone wants to know how much work goes into preparing a budget for this place, just ask Howard, Marty, or Stan. A lot of work, and then everybody else who looks at the budget. I also am a good communicator. I also have served on several different voluntary boards during my career, the Jewish War Veterans in Savannah, Rotary Club, and an epilepsy foundation also in Savannah. So once again, in addition to being able to communicate well and a knowledge of finance, I feel I bring a pretty good skill set to the board. Thank you.
Next would be Ray Lichtenstein. I'll read the question again. What skill sets will you bring to the board that will make you a productive and successful director, and how will you employ them? 2 minutes.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, I was on the board here for 4 years, so I've had experience working with colleagues and with many of the different issues that come up for the board, whether they be financial, construction, otherwise. I was a high school counselor for many years, and I'd like to think that I will help what Robert said, some of the differences among board members, bring a little more peaceful approach to this. I'll refer to it in my closing remarks later tonight. I'm willing to learn and listen. There are things that I have forgotten over the years as well. I'll be honest about that, but I've gone to almost all the board meetings, not all, and I've heard all the different situations that have come up and have experience with that. I'm aware of committee work. I was on many committees and now we're in several. I know how that works. I started with others, with their help and everything in the men's club here, so I know how that works. How you start an organization and how it develops and how it grows. And I'm willing to listen and accept new ideas as well. Thank you.
We're going in perfect order here to now. Next will be Eli Reiter. Again, the question is, what skill sets will you bring to the board that will make you a productive and successful director, and how will you employ them?
I've been in business for many years and have been faced with many different problems. I learned to be a problem solver by finding the good points and the bad features of certain items that were brought to the company's attention. We based our decisions on facts and analyzed the negatives to see if we can overcome them. So our decision was based on information. I have conducted many meetings. I've done brainstorming sessions, which eliminates conflict, where you go around the table on a particular subject, a given subject at the time, and everyone mentions one statement pertaining to the subject, whether it's positive or negative, and we will go around the table several times or even once until we're exhausted in our thinking. This information was on a blackboard, so we had it around the room, and we made decisions, discussed all aspects of the problem, resolved it, and moved forward. I have been involved in the community. When I first came to Florida, I was asked to run for the board to help them solve the community's problems, and I worked on the financial aspect of it at first, satisfying the needs with the loans that were taken out into the hurricanes in 2005. The place was basically mismanaged. I had several things that I proposed to the community. It was formulate a vision and mission statement, establish a realistic budget, monitor the expenses, and ensure all contracts had at least 3 qualified bids. I was a board member and president for 5 years. The HOA fee there remained the same for 5 years, and no assessments were made.
Okay, and again, last but not least, Gail Silverman. I'll read the question. What skill sets will you bring to the board that will make you a productive and successful director, and how will you employ them?
My background and experience is in education, and I spent most of my professional career in a small independent school. Evaluation and innovation and research were part of the program. I served on the board of the school as the faculty representative, which was an elected position to represent faculty viewpoints to the board when decisions were being made. I also chaired a committee for our community that combined 2 religious schools, which basically involved a lot of compromise and negotiations, and went on to chair the board of the religious school once it was formed, and the school still exists today. What I can bring to this board, I believe, is my research skills, which I think are very good. I don't accept answers because an authority might have given an answer that I disagree with. I will research and be prepared to acquiesce if my research proves me wrong. I think we need to have a board that works together, respects each other, and makes it pleasant for the rest of the community to come to board meetings. We've lacked that the last couple of years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates. It's hard to shuffle only 5. All right, next we will be randomly asking one question to 2 candidates whose names will be drawn randomly out of my basket. Again, you have the chance to stay at your seat or come to the podium. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. And Elena will give you again 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and time notices. I get to bring up my other random names. Okay. Let's see. Let's start with the question.
Turn it back 45.
I'll read the question, and then I'll draw a name. How would you define fiduciary responsibilities, and are you prepared to take the mandatory certification courses for Florida Statute 617 and 720? Ray Lichtenstein.
One, yes. Even though I had, as I said, been there before and I was being refreshed and I've been reading the documents again, always can be helpful. As far as fiduciary, I'm not on the finance committee, but I've been to enough meetings and situations. There is a conflict in our community where some people have said to me, maintenance is higher, the assessment was high, I may have to move. Then there are other people who said, we want to improve the community. And again, I have my final statement. I think we have to continue to maintain and improve where necessary, while being very careful with the budget. Not only the finance committee, but the board itself. We have to be totally careful as to how we approach this and where we can save. I don't want to see anyone leave this community. You all belong here. And hopefully we'll keep it that way by being very careful as to the budget and which items in the budget we have to take care of. Thank you.
also to Eli Reiter, I will repeat the question. How would you define fiduciary responsibility, and are you prepared to take the mandatory certification courses for Florida statutes 617 and 720?
Yes, I'd be willing to take the certification course. I've taken it before, but being on this new board, I'm required to take it within I believe it's the next 90 days, and I will do that. As far as the fiduciary responsibilities here, I'm a firm believer that we work for the homeowners. It is my basic concern to make sure that our community values, our regulations are followed by our rules and regulations. They are things that our community has to abide by to keep sense within our ranks. As far as some of the things that we have to do, we have to protect and enhance the good life for our community people. We have to protect our property values. There are things that are coming up, such as the school, the charter school, which is right around the corner from us, which will have an impact on our daily lives and an impact on our future and our property values. It is important that we analyze all the items brought to us and make sure that our community is protected. And make sure that our community is protected and not overrun. Our homeowner fee is in the top 3 out of 15 communities, and I want to be one of the people to bring that quarterly fee down within the ranks of the 15 communities that surround us. Thank you.
Okay, the next question will go to Mark Greenberg. What improvements would you make in the current relationship between committees, task forces, and the board to allow the system to work more efficiently and productively?
Well, I'm not totally sure that there's a lack of communication from the committees, the task forces, and the board. I think there's a greater lack of communication between the board and the community, as evidenced by the fact that at most board meetings, the same 5 or 6 dozen people show up. To me, if people don't show up to a board meeting, it shows a lack of interest in the community. It's all well and good to post on Facebook that you're annoyed at something, but you don't do anything to try and make the community better yourself. I've sat on the finance committee, and we've had a very, very good relationship with the board. The task forces, I really haven't seen anything one way or another because I'm not privy to most task forces. But once again, by and large, I think the committees do communicate with the board. There are usually a couple of members of the board on each committee that are assigned to that, and they have to sit on the committee and go to the meetings. So I think that there is communication there. I think that communication has to be enhanced and improved between the board meetings, and greater participation on the residents.
All right, and also to Gail Silverman, I will repeat the question. What improvements would you make in the current relationship between committees, task forces, and the board to allow the system to work more efficiently and productively?
One suggestion or improvement that I'd like to see are committee minutes being posted on the website. When I'm interested in an issue that a committee might be involved in, I will go to the website and look for the minutes, and most of the time they're not there. So I think minutes of committee meetings need to be available and posted to the website or communicated some other way. Task forces are very targeted, usually limited number of people involved, and possibly there needs to be some communication between the task forces and residents when dealing with a specific issue, in terms of knowing exactly what the residents would like to see happen and questions that the residents might have for the task force. And in terms of, the last one was the board. I've heard from many people that they don't come to board meetings because they feel that most of the time there's dysfunctional relationships and banter going on. And I think if board meetings could be more productive in terms of allowing the issues that need to be dealt with at a board meeting dealt with cooperatively, and things that don't need to be at a board meeting done by the board before the meeting.
One more name left in here. Roberts. If a board member oversteps their authority, how should the board handle the situation?
Well, there's overstep your authority and there's overstep your authority. The answer to that is we have a set of guidelines, rules, and regulations. Those have to be adhered to. The question of overstepping is frequently in the eyes of the beholder. I have seen some of our minutes. I know we have legal counsel on retainer, but people seem to make decisions about legal things or are constantly running back and forth to the lawyers, racking up extreme legal fees. I think it really goes back to the cooperation and the coordination at the task force, the committee, and the board level. If we're not all in sync philosophically on what we're trying to get done, I think that's when people are perceived to overstep their boundaries. I think what happens is that people get frustrated with what is or is not happening, and I will just give you a case in point, having been to 4 or 5 meetings here where we voted to put fans in at the tennis courts, then we unvoted to put fans in at the tennis courts, then we voted to put fans back in the tennis courts, and we unvoted to put fans back in the tennis courts. That creates tremendous disconcern for people, and I think that's when people tend to overstep their boundaries because they're frustrated with the inability of the board to work in sync with the community. Are there sanctions? Are there legal things that people should or shouldn't do? Obviously. I think if there are, quite frankly, we, the community, pay for officers' directors' liability insurance to make sure that we don't overstep our boundaries. And I think that's the level that we need to look at. Where are we? What are we doing? And are we working in sync so that people don't feel compelled to do something outside of their purview? Thank you.
Same question to Mark Greenberg. If a board member oversteps their authority, how should the board handle the situation?
I think overstepping authority needs a bit of a definition, but I'll have her probably put him in the timeout or in the back of the room for a few minutes would be my first choice. Since we don't have the authority to do that, it will be up to the other 8 members of the board to decide upon appropriate action. It's quite possible that a singular board member constantly oversteps his or her authority. If that's the case, then there might have to be sanctions where that board member is literally has to be excused from the board. I'm not sure if that's in the regs, but I know that there are ways to do that. But first you would cajole, first thing would be to cajole the board member into seeing the light, so to speak. It's not the easiest thing to do because everybody is not a team member, and team members who don't play well with others make it difficult for the rest of the board. I would try to communicate, the rest of the board should try to communicate, and if they can't, then they have to seek appropriate action. And like I said, I cannot give you the answer what appropriate action would be, possibly even isolating the board member or excluding him or her from decisions. Don't have a perfect answer for them.
Thank you. Next question will go to Ray Lichtenstein. Are you happy with the way our HOA is being managed? If not, what would you like to see changed and how would you accomplish it?
That's an interesting, obviously, question. Generally speaking, I have, over the many years that we have worked together, and when you say manage, I'm thinking of the management company here. I've been very pleased with the way things have been run. Things have been basically open, and the management company is willing to listen to our suggestions. When I say our, I mean residents as well as board members. Sometimes, in the past, decisions have been made by the president of the organization, and all the board members haven't always known. And I think there has to be a unilateral openness amongst all the board members as to what's going on. There may be decisions made by management, and I often wonder if all those decisions are privy to all the board members. And I think, again, there has to be an open dialogue here. But basically, as I say, I've been pleased with the way management has run things. And as far as the board, there's been some dissension itself, but hopefully it's all in the interest of the community. Thank you.
Okay, same question to Gail Silverman. Are you happy with the way our HOA is being managed? If not, what would you like to see changed and how would you accomplish it?
I have issues with the way we're managed. Sometimes I feel like we're treated like children without the respect of our opinions and voices in relation to certain things. I have a difficult time walking down the hall, seeing signs on windows telling us, you know, that we can't bring in food to certain places. I think, you know, we're adults. There are rules and regulations for the different rooms. The signs on the doors, to me, are tacky. That's my opinion. So I think there might be better ways to communicate with the residents, the members of the HOA, as to how we need to function and with reasons attached to the rules. A rule is only effective if people know why it's being implemented. How would I improve that? Take down the signs. I would, you know, like to have some dialogue as to what we can and can't do in the community room, for example. It seems to me that it had been defined as a place that small groups could meet, but it seems like that doesn't happen. There are computers in there are TVs in there, there's a TV in there. It's a perfect place for there to be some education for the residents who don't know how to get on the website. And then the website is my favorite topic of conversation these days. I can deal with our website because I am pretty computer literate, but too many people can't, and it needs to be updated. And I think we have the talented management to do it. Thank you.
question goes to Eli Ryder. Is there any particular area or issue in Valencia Shores that you believe has been ignored or not addressed properly?
Several areas have not been addressed properly, and one was a recent experience at the pool during the Christmas season. The law and order was not kept. We had several guards there. They didn't appear to be doing their job. I don't know if we can, during that special time of the year, have a lifeguard, because people were jumping in the pools and people with the children. Ball throwing was taking place. Chairs were pulled up very close to the edge of the pool, not leaving enough space for people to walk by properly. And another area I feel that has to be addressed is the safety on our roadways, and also being able to reduce the cost of the lighting around our community. We have about 500 roadway lights between the pods and the main driveway, Valencia Shores Drive. An analysis has been going on. I think to save the money, we should speed up that analysis, get it off our chest, get all the facts and figures. We have to know the wattage. We know of the current lamps. We know what LEDs will give us, and we know that we should have a substantial cost savings in that area. So we have to pay attention to items that can be reduced. There are some items on the schedule where funds have been shifted from one area to another, particular landscaping. Yet at a meeting, the landscaping committee said they spent $67,000 last year. The budget was for 2015 was stated as $100,000. It was duplicated in 2016 for $100,000. Something is wrong there. We have to take a close look at our financial statements. And I'm prepared to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question again to Robert Feinberg. I'll repeat the question. Is there any particular area or issue in Valencia Shores that you believe has been ignored or not addressed properly?
I don't think that there are issues that have been ignored. I think, like most things in life, there is a set of priorities, and what is the top of somebody's list is not necessarily the top of your list. Whether it's the pool guard during Christmas time, I will give you a sort of pet peeve of mine. Christmas time, holiday time, is the time where the vast majority of us have our children and our grandchildren come to visit us. The top lot was not able to be used because of the construction. It was not that complicated to wall off some area and allow our kids and our grandkids to use the top lot. I think we've lost sight of what we're here for, which is to create a community for people to feel comfortable with and to use our facilities. The lighting issue is a perfect example also. What kind of lights? Where do they go? How do they go? What's our bills? One of the budget items in the 2016 budget is the new building and the cost of the insurance for that, which was told to us that it was going to be about $6,000 a year, but the insurance line item was increased by over $40,000. So there seems to be some inconsistencies in some things. I think that the board's responsibility with community input is to prioritize those items and then to solve them one by one rather than taking on 400 things and getting nothing done. My orientation and focus is to find a problem, fix the problem, move on to the next problem. You can't just cover the ground with mud. It doesn't get anything fixed. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to open the floor to questions from the audience. Statements and disparaging comments are not welcome, and if you do so, you will be stopped. If you wish to make a statement to the board, you are welcome to attend a board meeting and speak during open forum. Please state your name, address, and question, and to which candidate you wish to address your question. Kindly speak loudly and clearly for the audience to hear you, and candidates will have 2 minutes to respond.
1 minute.
Microphones up here.
1 minute. 1 minute. 2 minutes.
1 minute?
I have 1 minute.
Okay.
2 minutes.
I think it's 2 minutes.
What do my name and...
Your name and your address, and which candidate you wish to address your question.
Okay, name is Jerry Shoy, and I live at 7545 Lake Harbor Terrace. And my question is actually directed to you. We have 5 vacancies and 5 board members. Explain, if you would, how the process works if we have 5 vacancies and 5 board members. Do they all automatically get in, or do they have to receive a certain percentage of the votes of the community, or how does that work?
There has to be a quorum, as Howard Chai had mentioned earlier, so we have to have either enough people that show up the night of the election in person or proxies to equal 30% of the community. If we have that, then we have to have ballots. We still do have to open the ballots and see if there are any write-in candidates. Because if there are write-in candidates, we have to see what the number count would be of any write-in candidates. It still might be possible that someone could be running a write-in candidate campaign and is out there campaigning as a write-in and could receive a certain number of votes as a write-in candidate. Someone could also come to the meeting on the February 11th and announce themselves that they would like to run for office, and as a write-in candidate, you can declare yourself the night of the election. Of course, by that point, if you're only coming to the meeting that night, you would only have the people in the room who would be able to vote for you. So it's not election by acclamation, because there is the potential for a write-in candidate to receive enough ballots to actually vote any of the candidates here. There is a possibility.
Thank you.
I applaud you all for coming forth and volunteering to be on our board. Gail Lewis, my major concern is that the people that were predominantly involved with the construction and all the new developments in our community have stepped down from the board, and you 5 will now be the majority coming in. Well, how are you going to handle continuity between the programs that were started and the construction that was started and still has to be completed? Our cafe, which is in the process of being finished and is not yet opened and has not, the cards and everything have not been implemented. What kind of input are each of you going to have on these venues and these programs? We need to know that all the efforts and all the money that has preceded you as a new board member will be valid and will have continuity going forward. We don't want vast changes. We voted as a community to continue our lifestyle.
Gail, is there a specific candidate you would like to address your question to?
Can I do it for all of them? I think this is a very important issue because they, all 5 of them, will now constitute a new majority if they choose to vote together. And I don't know how the old board members that are remaining on the board, I don't know how strong or involved they are in the current cafe situation or whatever. And I want to know that all the work that has proceeded and all the things that have been implemented so far will not be overturned because we have a new regime.
Okay, Ray, I saw your hand first. Ray?
I'm not the expert on construction, I'll be honest about that. However, I'd like to think that we can draw upon some of the people who have helped us in the past, like Herb Dembski, who has done a fabulous job in arranging everything. Of course, he has to be willing. I also want to, the main construction now has to do with the cafe, and Steve up front and Mike Kugler in the back are still involved heavily in what's going on in the cafe, and we have to draw upon their help and management where they were involved. So I'm not against going back and talking to the people who have helped us in the past. Thank you.
Eli?
Answer part of the question. At the last board meeting, it was voted on that 5 members here, since they were candidates, will receive minutes and correspondence pertaining to what's going on with the board. We received our first item that I read today, and it was very informative. So that will continue to keep us abreast until the final election. There are several items in the cafe that may still be open. One is the screen enclosure that was proposed, and that was put aside. It's being withdrawn from our permit request, such that if we want to put it in the future, it would require inspection just for that item. One of the rejections of the survey by Palm Beach County was that structure was not in place. We were asked to take it off the blueprint, but I think the concept is to leave it on and hold it in abeyance for the future, at which time the new board will undoubtedly have its say on that. And the continuity and the voting, as long as we keep in mind that you in the community are the ones we represent, we have to make sure that our decisions are on behalf of your benefit, not our personal benefits. And I think we're all old enough and astute enough to realize that. And that is my plan, and what I will do is vote for you.
Anyone else? Gail?
I think it's wrong to assume that all 5 of us will see things the exact same way on everything, on every single issue. I would hope that when the new board is assembled, the president will involve some of the people that have been on the renovation implementation task force and some of the people that have been very involved to continue. If they're not willing to, we have a tremendous amount of talent in the community, people who have retired from construction jobs, people who have retired as master electricians, master plumbers. I'm not sure that any of that is even in play anymore. I think all that stuff is fine and approved. But going forward, I think, we will be looking at what you as residents want and what we can do to facilitate it.
Okay, Mark?
Basically, from my perspective, going on to a board as a new member. Basically, from my perspective, going on to a board as a new member, I prefer being on a learning curve. You do not just come into a board and basically kick blank and take names, okay? you really have to learn what's going on and how the board itself operates. Even though, like, I go to every single meeting, that doesn't mean that I necessarily know what's in the mind of every board member. That is a learning process. You just don't come in and start right away and form a block, or say that the 5 members of this board, of the new board, are going to throw out the decisions of the board from 2015, 14, 13. It doesn't work that way, at least not in my experience. So I don't see any waves to be made or ripples in the waves. Thank you.
And Robert?
Yeah, let me just add to that. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to meet the other members of running for the board, and to assume that we're operating under a block and we're going to undo what was done before, I think is not an appropriate perspective. We all come to the board with our own talent, with our own ideas. I think, as Mark said perfectly, our job at the beginning is to take the knowledge and the understanding of the existing board, to get all of the information and then make our constructive decision. The idea that the 5 of us are going to come in, and again, I can't speak for them, I can only speak for myself, that we will come in and just undo what was done before, I think is really not correct. I think it's our goal to take what we have here in the community and go forward with it and build upon it. Thank you.
All right, next question from the audience. Please state your name and your address.
Chuck Klein, 8147 Seahorse Cove Boulevard. I'd like to address this to Robert. Right now, when we want to get into the social hall, we can use our key or the card, send to the pool. And this is not, using the card, of course, is not a security thing, because people use the card, 20 people walk right into the pool or into the social club. I would like to see both of them remain. They told me that they are going to remove the key and it won't be there. Now, I think for many people, the key is just quicker. You pull it out of your pocket because you have your house key on or your car key. I don't know if it's going to cost money to remove it, but I don't see why we can't keep the key and the card. If you have the key, you can get in quickly, or the card. And again, it's not a matter of someone saying this is a security thing, because watching by the pool, someone scanned their card, 15 people just, you hold the gate open, please come in. The social hall, the same thing. You scan your card, people walk in with you. You don't stop them and say, excuse me, you can't walk in because I have to check the card. Robert, you think we can keep both of them and not remove the key, and of course keep the card the way it's working?
Well, let me answer that in a couple of ways. The first, am I on? Yeah. Okay. The first thing is, I totally agree with your statement. The idea that the key or the card is somehow a security device is not correct. Exactly what you said occurs. People just open the door. People from inside the pool open the door for the outside. We have spent a great deal of money, I mean a great deal of money, on this card system. It's supposed to be more effective. It's supposed to be easier. I understand what you're saying about the key, but I would defer to management. The whole idea of the card system was to get away from the key, and I don't see how you can run parallel systems.
The issue with the card is that the gate can be locked at night so that people can't go into the pool. And if you're not aware, we had an incident at 2 o'clock in the morning over the holidays where we had some grandchildren of a resident who were in the resistance pool at the athletic club under the influence of alcohol. If we had the gate card active on that gate, they never would have been able to get into that area because it would have been locked out. Even with a gate card, they would not have been able to get in there. And that was one of the primary reasons why the association went to that key, so that areas could be locked out and people could not go into areas where they shouldn't be going into for their own safety.
I was going to just run in one thing. In the evening, we can always have someone with a slide lock. After a certain time, just click a lock. Basically, the pool, that's it. The social club, I don't think it's a problem. So if you want to lock the pools, someone have slide locks, you click them, combination or whatever else, it's locked. And this way, I still think that's the reason we can still keep our key and still keep the card. And,
I would answer your comment this way. I'm not here to dispute what system you would like. My response would be to everybody here, if you don't like what the board has enacted, get on a committee, put your input in, get it on the committee, and have them make that recommendation to the board.
thank you.
My name is Michael Klavinoff. I think most of the people in the audience know who I am. I live at 8176 Avalone Point Boulevard. And my question is to Eli, because you made a point of saying that you were on an association board here in Florida where the maintenance remained the same for 5 years. I'd like to know what association the maintenance reserve remained the same for 5 years.
The community was Coronado Estates, located on Boynton Beach Boulevard between Jog and Military, on the north side of Boynton Beach Boulevard.
And it's an all-age community, not a 55 plus.
All-age community. It has a large gate in front, which we had cameras on. We did have children, or young people, I should say, climbing over the walls in different parts of the community as houses were being built. We couldn't do anything, but someone came up with a suggestion of greasing the top of the walls when these children were coming over. We couldn't use glass or barbed wire, and that's what was done, and it stopped it for a long period of time.
Eli, I'm going to push a little bit on that. I'm going to ask everyone on the board. Okay, being that we're an aged community now, we're getting older. Half these people are losing their spouses, half their income is losing it with the spouse loss. And our Social Security is not giving raises and that. How does the board plan on keeping everyone living here? Because I heard, say that he'd hate to see anybody go. And an awful lot of people are going to have to go if they keep losing the income that they're losing.
That was to Eli? To the whole board. All right, Eli, you want to start?
Yes.
All right.
I'll go at this one. Our electric bill in this community is $340,000 a year. It was that way in 2015. It's budgeted for that for 2016. The current board and members of the committees have made arrangements to put LED lights in this hall to save costs. They have numbers on that, and it was advisable and voted on that they did take those steps. The next step is to complete the LED lighting in the hi-hat units. There is candelabras that are LEDs. I recommended to a friend of mine in another community, Huntington Point, where they have many more chandeliers than we do, and they saved over $100,000 from what he was told. He was president of that community going back about 4 or 5 years ago. LEDs have been improved. Prices have come down slightly. I've looked into it recently, and I was told to stay away, sorry to say, from the Chinese LEDs, because LEDs are rated for 10 years, and it's found that some of these companies in China, their units have been failing in 2.5 to 3 years. So that's a concern of mine. Also, the street lights. We can save, my estimate is about $80,000 in going to LED lighting around the community, around Valencia Shores Drive and in the ponds. And that's a lot of money.
How long is it going to take to offset this price that we're going to put out right now?
Okay. From what I'm told from some experts, is the payback for the lamps are 7 to 8 months. The cost savings was estimated at about $80,000. If we can take half of that and give it back to the community at the end of the year, I'd like to see that happen.
Meanwhile, you're paying labor to put these bulbs up, you're paying everything else, and you still figure only 80,000.
Yes. That's what I was told, and that's what we're shooting for. It's a matter of doing it as fast as possible to save as much as we can. There's another aspect going on, which I gave papers to a current board member, Steve Tyler, where there are groups that would come in and analyze our bills for the last 10 years. And if there has been a mistake, because there have been laws that made changes to the electric company's charges. And if we're so lucky to have that done, and I understand from President Otoski that the community next to us, I think it's Savannah, that they were using our lighting on 441 by mistake by Florida Power. And I don't know if we have been reimbursed for that money. But anything that is owed the community due to incorrect billing, there's an 18% surge penalty, and we get the money back. So that's one of the first steps we should be taking, calling these people in and letting them analyze our yearly bill and take that advantage at this time.
Anyone else wish to answer?
I would.
Robert?
First thing is I'll make a little joke. I'm a financial planner, so my first comment to you would be find a good financial planner and have your income increase. That aside, there are other things we can do aside from controlling expenses, is generate income. There are two sides to the balance page. If you'd like, you can rent out parts of facilities at different times to generate money. There are 2 or 3 different ways to go about the same problem. So you can decide, just to give you an example, how often do we get our homes painted now? Does anybody know? Once every 7 years.
It moved up to 7 years from 5.
That's where I was going. When I first moved in, it was once every 5 years. Now it's once every 7. It has to do with the community, it has to do with the services you want to have provided. It has to do, how often do you want the grass cut? How often do you want the mulch changed? These are all things in flux that can be changed, that can be controlled. That'll change our budget.
So in other words, the mulch isn't going up every year, and we got to offset the price of that. Now,
I just use the mulch as an example. I mean, you want the perfect solution? I was tired of paying for the mulch every year and a half for the whatever few $100, so I put stones around my house. I solved the mulch problem. The LED lighting will solve that problem long term. You have to make constructive decisions about where you're going to cost cut.
so now I asked the board before, how are they going to lower the freight since we're not getting Social Security and spouses are dying off?
Right, was there
No
anyone
one's
else on the
actually
board that wants to
mentioned
answer
it.
the question? Ray, you want to answer?
I'm going to just give a comment. I'm one of those people who lost their spouse, and I have to watch certain costs at home and so on. At the same time, based on the original statement I made, with people saying to me that they may have to move and so on, there's a large segment of, I'm not taking a position by the way, I'm just making a comment. There's a large segment of the community that says just the opposite, that they don't want to cut back. They don't want to have mulching seldom. They want to have improvements and so on. And it's a question, it's something I may have to deal with as a board member. Where do you go with this? And one of the things is, as Eli said, looking into certain things that can be cut back without affecting negatively the community. And that's a key thing I feel.
Thank you. All right, next question from the community.
I'd like to go back to the whole fiduciary responsibility because...
Excuse me, just introduce yourself, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bernice Goldberg, Klabanoff, 8176 Avalon Point Boulevard. Going back to the fiduciary responsibility, as future board members, which it looks like you guys will be, and you women up there, yay, I hope that you do understand that your fiduciary responsibility is to maintain this community as it has been maintained. So when we talk about fiduciary responsibility, I guess I'm a little bit directing this at you, Eli. The idea of maintaining our maintenance fee or reducing our maintenance fee scares me tremendously. I can understand that there might be some savings in electricity, but I know the cost of running my home every year has gone up since I bought here, and I'm here 11 years going on 12. I cannot see how we can maintain our beautiful community and reduce the budget. So if you have some magic way, I'd like to do it in my home. I've changed my appliances, I've changed my light fixtures, I've done a lot of things in my house. My electric bill still goes up. The cost of living has gone up. My taxes go up, my insurance goes up, everything that runs my home. So when you tell me, or you tell this audience, you have a magic way, I'd love to know it because it scares me. I don't want anything to go backwards in this community. I only want to see maintenance and improvements that make our life. We bought here to be happy. I didn't buy here because I want to be afraid that, you know, things are going to start falling apart. So please explain to me how you can do that magic.
First of all, I'm not a magician.
Speak louder.
I'm not a magician, okay? I'm an engineer by education. I'm a business person. I've been in business for close to 40 years. I've been an educator as well. I've taught students. And when it comes to looking at numbers, I'm very good at it. And I looked at budget numbers and I saw errors. In the landscaping, I mean, there's about $20,000 error. Okay, because if you take the number of ficus plants and the amount we paid for the replacement, you'll see that it comes out to about $6.68 per foot. Let's use $6.70. And now if we multiply it by the landscaping committee's numbers where they say we have to replace $6,000 to $7,000 foot of ficus this year, and they requested the movement of money, and just multiply 6,000 by the $6.70, multiply the 7,000 by it, and you'll see that the money that will be in that budget will be $50,000, yet the cost of doing the ficus replacement would be about $40,000 to $42,000. So there's a $10,000 in the budget that we've been assessed money for. Every $11,000 that we have to spend cost each homeowner on a monthly basis $10. And it's $10 for the year. It's $250 every quarter. And if we're over $100,000, well, multiply it out. You know, you're paying $100 extra each year. Our HO fee went up $58 at the beginning of 2015, and it went up another $28. Well, you know, add it up. What have you paid? The thing is, we have to have 3 bids because we have to keep our current vendors, our current suppliers honest. We need competition in there to drive the price down. And that's another way. So there are ample savings to keep us at the point we are or save. And if you take the $40,000 potential part of the saving from the LED lighting, you'll be saving a considerable amount each month. It'll just about wipe out the $28 increase. And that's how it has to be done. You have to look at the numbers, assess them, and find out vendors that would work with you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next,
Hi, Howard Galen, 8256 Abalone Point. Having been on the budget task force with Mark, I can only tell you that when we did the budget, you may think that there's money available because numbers sometimes, tell a lie. But I can assure you, and I think Mark can verify it, that what was in the budget was really bare minimum. And we tried to keep the maintenance fee as low as possible. So I think that, anybody can make that, and I'm not disrespecting you at all, but anybody can make that statement without knowing all the pieces that are in there.
Can I ask you a question? Are you satisfied with the $100,000 that was spent on landscaping for 2015 and using the same number for 2016? If you were at the last meeting, I think you heard something different.
I can tell you that I don't look at all the pieces. I can only tell you what we knew was in the landscape budget for 2016. So whether it's good or bad or the same as last year, I think it's what the landscape committee felt that they needed to maintain the community as it should be maintained. I have one more question.
May I just finish my point? Based on the landscaping committee, I don't remember the name of the representative that spoke before the board this past week. Okay? Saul was asked what was spent on landscaping in 2015, and the number was $67,000 and change.
That's not totally correct.
I'll let him answer.
It's what?
It's not totally correct.
Was that the number you stated, sir?
No, you have to listen to the whole thing. I'm sorry, Eli. You're on the board now, but you have to listen to everything. Not yet, but he will be. But that's not what I said. And you have to stop quoting all these things if you're incorrect. Please talk to me first if you don't understand the whole thing. I really would appreciate that. Stop picking on what we're doing on landscaping. Our problem is that our community has gotten older. And as it gets older, plants grow. And some of the plants grow too much and they finally die, like the ficus. All right? And we do have to take them out. And what I said to the board was that we have, right now, if we look at it, we might have around a little over 7,000 feet that we're taking out. But we're not going to do all of that this year. All right? And I asked the board, just for the sake of keeping track of where the money goes per category, to move $20,000 from one category and put it into the ficus replacement to make it $50,000. Then the board asked me, how much did you spend on everything this year except for ficus? And that was $67,000 to $70,000. So this year we have asked for $80,000 in plant replacement because we expect more things to die. All right, we have fusarium disease, we have all this stuff that is killing our plants and our trees, and we do have to replace them. And to keep this community beautiful, because that's the way we want to live here. That's the reason I bought in Valencia Shores, because it's a beautiful community. And to keep it beautiful, landscape is going to have to spend the amount. So far, we have kept within our budget for the year. We're going to be approximately $5,000 to $6,000 under budget now, for 2015. These are budgetary numbers, Eli. They're not hard and firm. They're budget. We're trying to keep within the budget. We try to keep the numbers the same for 2016, although we know more plants are going to die, and to keep the community beautiful, we're going to have to replace them. So if you want to pick on $10,000 here or $5,000 there, you can. Now we're going to try again this year to keep under budget, but keep the community beautiful. It's the wrong place to go to pick on the community for money.
Okay. Now, so I don't want to be argumentative, but you did confirm the $67,000 that I mentioned.
Approximately, yes.
Okay,
But
so I'm
that's
not
what
wrong,
you're-
that's what you mentioned.
But then,
Okay.
Okay, I would suggest, gentlemen, that you take this up offline, all right? Robert would like to address this question as well.
Well, not so much the question, but let me tell you what I've heard sitting up here this evening. I've heard a member of our community talk about the fact, within reason, that money is not a problem, that we want the community to grow and be prosperous and look good. This is why we bought here. And then I heard another gentleman talk about the fact that his Social Security has been cut, that his investments are not doing as well, and he may have to move because he can't pay our maintenance fees. I would tell you as a board member, that is our balancing act. How do we get the services that we want within the confines of the price that everybody's going to be able to afford? These last two people gave you polar opposites of what they're trying to accomplish. Control costs, keep us beautiful the way we were. That's the function of the board, to try and do that as best it can for all concerned. Thank you.
Howard?
One more question. Let's go back to board meetings, okay? One of the things that I found is that during discussions by the board, there is an awful lot of audience participation. People raise their hand, they get up, they talk, whether they raise their hand or not. And I'd like to know from all of you how you feel you can manage that situation, so it's not disruptive.
All right, Robert?
Yes, I've been to a number of those board meetings and quite frankly have been so exhausted before the meetings have ended that I've gone home because there's just so much crosstalk. Okay, it is up to the president of the board to monitor what transpires and how it works. The board has to be consistent. Quite frankly, I've seen members of the board argue with each other on something that should have been discussed beforehand. That serves no purpose. In addition, you can't permit people to say the same thing over and over and over and over again on the same point. Everybody has a right to speak. But if you get up and make point A, and he gets up and makes exactly the same point, it is up to the board's president to modify and control the meeting. That's how we cut down 4- and 5-hour meetings to 2- and 3-hour meetings that are far more productive.
Right, Mark, go ahead.
Somehow as meetings, we seem to get away from something called time management. It's if time does not exist when there's a board meeting, a meeting that should last maybe an hour and a half, an hour, 45 minutes, invariably goes into dinner and breakfast the next day. And I blame the community, the participants, and the board members because it has to stay focused, it has to stay on point. When board members carry on a 20-minute argument amongst each other about a period or a comma or the word the, or what is the definition of the word the, and the audience is here sitting, and I've been in the audience at virtually every meeting, it's kind of tough to pay attention. So what basically happens at the meeting, people start talking, the decorum goes downhill, the board doesn't bring it back, and I think it's the job of the board to bring it back by being concise, staying with the agenda, and possibly even when the agenda is given out, put an amount of time for each item on the agenda that you think it'll take.
All right, thank you, Mark. Eli, did you want to say something? Okay, anyone else, right?
I just wanted to say in terms of the board meetings that have been going on, and as I said, I've been most of them, that our president has been trying to accommodate everybody and give everyone a chance to speak. And I think that's wonderful in a certain way, but at the same time, it's not just the community speaking too much, but as was just said, board members themselves have to limit the amount of time back and forth on discussions, and hopefully the new president, whoever that may be, will gain control of that situation. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Anyone else from the audience? All right, I'm going to ask the candidates to make their closing comments. Yes. Oh, excuse me, Gary.
Hello, Barry German, 7820 Brookmore Court.
as a preamble to the question that I want to ask, I just wanted to say that I've been to pretty much 95% of the board meetings over the past 8 years, and I have never seen anybody on the dais display a personal bias for a personal position to try to effectuate that position. I have always noticed that people who start as polar opposites end up moving towards the center, because compromise is the only way anything gets done. So no matter what your original position, if you listen to the other people around you and you listen to the people in the community, that is indeed the way things get done. Once you have sat through the budget process a few times, you will realize that the budget, and here's the question, that the budget is an approximation. The budget is not an exact number. The budget is what each individual committee feels it will cost to do their job and exert what is their fiduciary responsibility as a committee member and pass it up to the board. So my question is, would you, as a board member, feel more comfortable using safe numbers so that there's not an assessment at the end of a year, but there might be money left in the budget? Or would you rather try to keep the number of the quarterly payment down and end up with an assessment at the end of the year? And anybody can answer that. Thank you.
Robert?
Yeah, I'll start with that. Having worked on a number of budgets, there are several things that I know. The more money you put in a budget, the more money gets spent. I also recognize that what the gentleman said is correct. It's a budget. It's an approximation. It's not hard and fast. We do have contracts. Those numbers are hard and fast. But I defy you to tell me what next year's electric bill will be. Are we going to have hurricane damage? What the insurance premiums will go up? So the answer to your question is very simple. It's a balancing act from the board to try to come up with an amount of money that seems palatable to work the community to the way we want it to be. I also know one thing about budgets. When there's money left over in a budget, it is never distributed back to the people. It gets used someplace else. So I think the appropriate thing, the fiduciary thing for the board to do is take the input from all of the committees, take a look at past history, what we've done, the past board members, those people who sit on budget and finance committees, and sit down and work through the numbers to get them within reason, as exact as we can. The budget is over $7 million. If you're off 1 or 2%, do the math, it's a lot of money. I don't feel we should pad the budget. Conversely, I don't think we should cut the budget to the bones. That's the balancing act. That's what the board should do. Thank you.
Approximately 75% of the budget is committed each year before we even start the year. Every contract is reviewed as part of the budget process. And we have a $7.4 million budget. Just think about landscaping. It's 1/4 of the budget. Think about hot wire. It's almost another, it's 20-some-odd% of the budget. You're talking 2 items represent almost 50% of the budget. Then you have all of your contracts other than that, and you're probably left, after going through every single number, maybe 2, possibly 3% of wiggle room where you're saying, do we need every penny here and can we cut it a little bit? There's very little, I can't say to cut, but there's very little movement. Virtually every penny is committed before you start the year. Having been on the committee for 3 years and on the budget committee for 2 years, I can tell you that from personal experience.
Anyone else? Any other questions from the audience? All right, candidates, you're ready for your closing comments. Again, back to my randomness. Anyone want to come up and use the podium? You're very comfortable right there. All right, we'll start with Ray. Closing comments.
Okay. Forgive me if I repeat some things because I wrote a little statement that I'd be aware of. As I had said, I was a member of the HOA board for 4 years. And then my wife, Billy, who many of you knew, got ill with cancer, and it was essential that I be more available to help her. She passed in 2014, but now I feel that I've regained the energy to serve our community. While we had differences in the old board, my concern is that I feel that now there is, and I emphasize the word, the appearance, at times, among some of the directors of some hostility, anger, and that kind of thing. And many of our residents have recognized this and spoken to me about it. We need to develop, for all of us, the ability to work together. Some issues to think about when I am on the board. This has come up before, but I think of it again. We are a gated community, not a secure community. Strangers and motor scooters, which I've seen come through without the guard checking who they are. I've seen that happen. That's a concern. 2, this is a big one. We have a $5,000 limit that the board can spend for new items without it going to a community vote, which can cost, the mailing can cost around $3,000 or so. I believe it is too low, and I will present that to the new board for discussion to see if we could raise it. Most other communities are above us. 4, I'm concerned, which we talked about before, that we maintain and improve the quality of our facilities by being aware of fiscal restraints. Those are the 4 things that I come up with at this point. I want to thank all of you who came here tonight for listening, and I look forward to your participation throughout the year. And as a little fun thing at the very end, on a personal note, if anyone knows of some tall single woman, tell me about it.
Thank you, Red. Next, we'll have Eli.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your questions. And I hope there have been many areas that were cleared up for those that came to the microphone. Growing up in the Bronx, I experienced the closeness of the community spirit. Life in the Bronx was as if there were one family caring for each other, having hundreds of brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers. The spirit, the care, concern, and dedication to help one another is the Bronx experience that has remained in me all my life. I'm a people person. Like many people in business, I have learned from my personal experiences and the experiences of my associates. Overcoming obstacles in business, always a personal challenge, became one of my strong points. I mentioned before being on the board of another community, and I've had good experience at that community. Landscaping was devastated at first. It took 3 years to overcome the problems that were there, and each year 1/3 of the front shrubs on Boynton Beach Boulevard were changed over. It take 3 years to make a complete job based on budgeting. My work experience encompasses over 40 years in engineering and business management. The ability to bring people together was enhanced by my leadership skills, including planning, organizing, communicating, directing, budgeting, motivating, and negotiating. My efforts led to receive the 1984 Small Business Person of the Year Award in the New York City and Long Island area. Making a good decision requires knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the item we're working on. Making a good decision, we have to look at positives and negatives, and their impact on the community prior to making the decision is important. To establish an organization's direction needs the formulating of the values, mission, and vision that help guide one's decisions for our community. There currently does not exist one for the board. Committees do have mission statements. Board members are the guardians of the residents' quality of life and the residents' investment that is their property value. Therefore, the Board of Directors' responsibility is to ensure that the budget developed meet the needs of the community residents. Some of the top priorities include the charter school, which impacts our daily work and through traffic congestion, but it also will affect our property values if it goes through as is recently presented. The bottom line, no problem is too small. We can handle them all. And if you want to send me personal email as to what you think is best in the community and one item that you think needs improvement, I will tabulate all that. Your names will not be disclosed, and we will have a good start on the coming new board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eli. Next will be Gail Silverman.
Thank you all for coming tonight, giving up your mahjong games, your card games, and TV shows. Factual information, accurate answers to questions, and adherence to our community documents are essential components for a well-functioning Board of Directors and HOA. Complete and reasonable cost estimates, as well as legal implications of new initiatives, should be known in advance and available for community consideration. We need board members that are able to work cooperatively with each other as well as the members of our community. We should take advantage of the expertise of our residents whenever possible. And we do not need to fix what's not broken, but we need to be prepared in every way to make needed repairs so that we keep Valencia Shores affordable, competitive in the marketplace, and in excellent condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Robert.
Thank you. I'll be very short. I think it's the job of the board to take input from the community and take direction from the community to see what we want, where we want to go, how we want to get there, and the cost to have that happen. I think there are a lot of great ideas. There's tremendous expertise in our community. I implore you all, if you don't like what's happening, get on a task force, get on a committee. I'm a little disheartened, quite frankly, that there are only 5 of us here this evening. I've been at locations where there are 8, 10, 12, 15 people running for board seats. That shows that there's a vibrant community, that people want to effectuate change. It's our job as a board to take your input and put that into action, and that would be my intent. I thank you all for coming, and hope to see you soon.
And last, Mark Greenberg.
I have a couple of thoughts. I have no preconceived in the speech. However, during my career, I always operated under the auspices of OPM, not spending other people's money, or in this case, older people's money. And I've tried to adhere to that principle during my entire career. The other thing about being a board member or being a member of the community is I've always felt that knowledge is power. Not in the power to tell anyone what to do, but in the power, the more you know, as NBC would say, the more you're empowered to make a proper decision once you've gathered all the facts. And last but not least, one of the things in my bio was wrong. I said I was going to be a grandfather to be. My daughter-in-law had the baby on Friday, so that's I look forward to serving you, and of course, one of the reasons I decided to run for the board was the excellent salary and benefits. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank all the candidates for their time in answering our questions. We'd like to thank you for your participation and involvement in the 2016 Meet the Candidates. Please remember to exercise your right as a resident in our community and cast your absentee ballot and in advance of the February 11th election, or plan to attend the annual meeting on February 11th. Good night and have a pleasant evening.